what we're not able to do is to diagnose those small errors that young children are able to do. We want to look at the outcome of the performance in terms of what does the overall performance look like and what is the end result, rather than be able to look at individual parts of the process. So like I said, if you take a skill, you break it down, there could be 30 different movements within a skill that you have to break down. And it could be one of those individual movements that causes the fault. So like I said, if you look at young children throwing a ball, this is what, right, why does the ball go into the ground when I throw it? Because I'm throwing from a front-on position, or I'm releasing the ball too late. Okay, so the fault is there's no rotation, there's no transfer of weight, there's no flexion extension. So these are all movements that a young child would need to master before they can throw a ball correctly. Okay, so there's some basic considerations that if you're a coach or you are a teacher and you're coaching fundamental movement skills, there's some basic considerations that you need to understand. So I think we mentioned briefly like stages of learning, and if you think of young children, they're all at different ages, what we call biological age, physical age. So chronologically, if you've got a group of 10-year-olds, chronologically they are all 10 years of age. However, in terms of their biological growth or physical growth, they could be 11 years of age, 12 years of age, 13, they could be 7, 8 years of age. So there tends to be, if you take a group of children in terms of their chronological age, sometimes they can be 3 or 4 years either side of that chronological age in terms of their physical development or their social development or their psychological development. So these are sort of things that we have to think about, which is very difficult, because when you're teaching a group of kids, all you know is their chronological age. And sometimes you think, right, well, they're 10 years of age, they should be able to do this. So we make lots of assumptions. And yet, physically, socially, mentally, they're all at different ages. And so it makes our jobs as coaches and teachers very difficult. You also have to understand that they have to have certain skills in order to sort of perform these movements as well. So like it says, what skills are important for athletes or performers to learn in order to have success performing them? So like I said, if we want them to run or kick or jump, those skills are made up of smaller skills. So we have to assume that they're competent in those little skills before they can put them all together. So for example, if you take something like kicking a ball, there's a number of skills that make that up. If we take doing something like the triple jump's made up of a number of different movements and skills. If you take a layup in basketball, you've got bouncing the ball, you've got running, you've got jumping, you've got lifting. So there's these different skills that are involved to become competent in performing a sports skill. So we need to understand the skills, the movements, and the stage of growth and development that young children are at. So, when we look at a skill, whatever skill we look at, we have to do something what we call determine a performance criterion. What is the purpose? What is the goal of the skill? So, we have to be able to break a skill down. So if I'm teaching a young child and I want them to perform the movement or the skill competently, I have to look at, right, what is the skill made up of? What are all the parts that constitute the whole? So can I break the skill down into smaller parts? So like we just discussed, can I break it down into the preliminary phase, the execution phase, and the follow-through phase? Can I look at things like the force-producing movements? Can I look at the critical impact? Can I look at the follow-through? Can I look at mechanical factors? So, all right, we're going quite technical here. We can go quite biomechanical if we wish. But from a basic level, I need to take any skill that I want to teach a young child and I need to be able to break it down into smaller constituent parts. So this is a good example. If we look at the examples there of running, and we look at the examples of jumping, it's broken down into essentially three phases. We could say four if we look at the critical instant or the force producing. So the green tends to be the preparation phase. The red is the execution phase. The blue arrow is the critical instant. It's the minute you produce the force that allows you to execute the movement. And then the yellow is obviously the follow through or the recovery phase. In the top picture on my left here, you can see a skill like running. You've got, because we're running continuously, the phases just carry on moving. So if you get one part of that phase wrong, then the whole process of running is out of sort of sync and out of tune. So hopefully you can understand why, as a coach, we have to be able to break down each of these parts. And this is where your observational skills become really important, your analytical skills. Hopefully you've got a good eye that you can watch it, but it might be that this is where you employ video analysis. You can video young kids doing particular movements, and then you can start to recognize when they're doing things wrong. If we look at it more from a performance level, so we've got a tennis player here, we can see if we take freeze frame pictures of, so what's this player here? He's doing a backhand shot. You can see if we break it down into the different phases, you can see the different skills and movements that the player is using to get themselves ready in the preparation phase to do the backhand, what they're doing in the execution phase to perform the movement, and then the recovery phase then becomes really important in a game, because you've got to get yourself ready and in position to do the next shot. So how we take a skill, how we break it down, how we analyze it, how we observe it is really important at a basic level and also at a performance level as well. Okay, so task 2 then. So 15 minutes long. I want you to pick a sports skill. Could be the tennis serve, could be the volleyball dig, could be the forward defensive shot in cricket. I want you to think of a skill in a sport. I want you to break it down into the 3 areas: preparation, execution, recovery. And I want you to start to think about, right, what are all the fundamental movements that underpin that whole movement? So a skill is to be able to teach the skill, but then as we get more advanced, it's how those skills contribute to a more sport-specific skill.